Hello and welcome to this tutorial for the Mirage 2000C on how to use the laser guided bombs, the GBU 12, GBU 16, and I would do the GBU 24. However, I'm pretty sure it's broken right now at this time. So quick notes about this little video here. This is currently October of 2017, and as you can see, this is DCS version 2.1.1.10527. So things are subject to change. So anyway, let's start from scratch here, and we'll go to the mission editor. We'll place down enemy units like so. We'll select a red faction, such as Russia. We will select the vehicle type. We'll make them T-55 tanks. We'll say there's 4 of them. That's all we need to do there. Next thing we'll do is we'll place down a unit that will act as our AI JTAC. Select a unit here. For training purposes, we'll put them unrealistically close to the enemy. We'll place them right here. Now, a couple of quick notes. If you want to be more realistic with this, you should keep in mind that this circle denotes the, I believe it's the effective lasing and combat range for this unit, which, by the way, we need to change it to USA. The tow Humvee is a good known good for JTAC work. So just take note that you want to try to have your JTAC positioned such that the target to be lased is within this circle, because if it's not, it may not work. And then also, if your JTAC isn't set to invisible or immortal, which I'll show you in a minute, he may get engaged and killed by the targets if he's within their combat radius, their yellow circles. So we'll go ahead and, just for general purpose, we will pull him outside of their combat radius. And then we'll also, just to be safe for training purposes, we'll add advanced waypoint actions. Well, this is also something you must do to get the JTAC feature functioning properly. We're going to press the add button. We're going to set an option for the rules of engagement, or ROE, or weapon hold, so that he doesn't engage the target before we do, and give away his position, because we want to kill these targets. We don't want him knocking them out with his toe before we get there. Okay, so once that, I don't think the matter here really, or the order here really matters that much. So anyway, so let's add a start en route task, forward air control, FAC engage group. Now you can either click in the vicinity at this point, and it'll automatically select the enemy vehicle group, or you can select the enemy vehicle group from a drop down. Either one works. The weapon, this is where you can tell a JTAC that, hey, you want him to recommend guided bombs on the target. The designation is the tool that he's going to use to mark the target. What I find is that, provided that you have guided bombs selected, you can either use automatic or laser, and either one will make him use the laser with laser code of 1688, which should work by default. Now the frequency, I find in the Mirage 2000C that I have trouble adjusting the frequency. So the default in the Mirage 2000C is 129 megahertz. So I do that for good measure. I think it still works anyway, even if you don't mess with this and you just bring up the comms menu, but I do it just for good measure. So anyway, we've got that set. Let's go ahead and also make the JTAC perform command invisible. We'll also make him immortal. There we go. So that should be everything we need to do for our JTAC. Alright, and then we'll add in our aircraft. We'll put them far enough out to where we have enough time to talk to the JTAC and set up our weapons before we get to the target area. Which in this case, if you're wondering, happens to be about 130 kilometers, give or take. And we'll see how that works. It may or may not be too much or too little time, but should be alright. We'll make this the player by selecting it from the skill drop-down menu. We will go ahead and use this this custom setup that I made that includes GBU 12, a GBU 16, which is the 500-pound and 1,000-pound guided bombs. Again, like I said before, the GBU 24 I think is bugged. It doesn't appear to track a laser or anything like that. I don't even know if it's implemented yet for the GBU 24. So get that selected. Then we'll go ahead and add a waypoint here to help us guide towards the target. And that should be all we need to do for the setup. Let's go ahead and specify an altitude of about 5,000 meters. Because the ground here, as you can see down here, is already around 2,000 meters, and we'd like to be about 10,000 feet above ground level. Seems reasonable to me for laser guided bombs. So we'll do that. Get going here. Bear with me while this loads. Okay, the first thing we notice, we're going pretty slow. Go ahead and level out the aircraft first of all. Get our flight path marker there set on the horizon line. We'll turn on our autopilot, and provided that our vertical speed is pretty close to somewhat close to zero, we'll go ahead and turn on our altitude hold mode, and that'll help free up our hands to be able to set up our weapons and talk to the JTAC. So let's go ahead and get the JTAC on the horn by opening up the communications menu. Here he is. We'll go ahead and check in.
X-Men 1-1. This is Enfield 1-1-1. Quebec Charlie 3-4-5-8 at 16,000. I have GBU 12 bombs, 150 gun. Time on station is 0 plus 15. Available for tasking. What do you have for us? Enfield 1-1. This is Axeman 1-1. Type 2 in effect. Advised and ready for 9-line.
Okay, now a quick note here. If you just press the F1 key to reply as ready to copy, if you do it too soon, like inside of 4 seconds, he may not acknowledge. However, if you mouse click that reply, it will automatically wait the appropriate interval before replying. So now it's been plenty of time now either way, but we'll just left mouse click.
Ready to copy. Line is as follows. Charlie 14257 marked by laser 1688 west 2,700 meters. Troops in contact. Egress south. Advise when ready for remarks and further talk on. Ready to copy remarks. Use GBU 12. $4,500. Papa Charlie 14257 Readback correct. Report IP inbound.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and run through all this stuff.
In field 1-1. IP inbound.
In progress, inbound. I think that's what that stands for.
Continue.
Tell him to turn on his laser.
In field 1-1. Laser on. Laser on. Lasing.
And here, by saying spot, we're saying that, hey, we see your laser, even though we don't really see it.
In field 1-1. Spot.
Then we're going to tell them we're running in. Now, in real life, this is probably timed a lot better. It's kind of wonky here in this example scenario. But we want to get this all out of the way before we get there. So
in field 1-1. In from the east.
It should say cleared hot.
In field 1-1. Cleared hot.
Okay, so at this point, the JTAC should be lasing the target and all that stuff. We're done talking to him for now. Let's go ahead and set up our weapon. So we'll turn on the master arm switch, and we'll go ahead and select first, even though he's recommending GBU 12s, which is here, we'll use the GBU 16 as our first bomb, since it's the heaviest and also the most damaging, and it happens to be on right here, even though the code is the same. It's going to be the one that's on the right side. So we'll select that. As you can see, TAS mode is automatically selected by default. The next thing we want to make sure that we do is ensure that our radar is on and in the proper mode. It's not on right now, and that's indicated by the TAS flashing and a SIL right here. But if we go and we put the radar into EM or emit mode, you'll notice that the TAS is steady and there's no SIL verbiage here. The next thing we want to do is we want to set our bomb fuse selector switch to instantaneous, because if it's inert, it will guide towards the target and may even strike the target physically, but won't detonate the explosives. So you want to make sure you have that turned on. And then that should be it. So I like to turn off my landing lights, and I also like to turn off my navigation and anti-collision lights. Alright, so I don't know if you can see it, but up ahead of us on the ground, tiny little specks there, that's the enemy convoy. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use this diamond here in combination with our AG designate button, which you can key map, to mark a spot on the ground for our CCRP release solution. What I've learned is that you need to put this about 500 meters prior to the target, or your bomb will overshoot. So we're going to go, yeah, right about there. Should be okay. It might be a bit much, but in my experience, it still works. So now all we have to do is fly reasonably level towards the target and follow our steering cues. To the left and the right of the diamond are these little lines, and all you got to do is adjust your roll so that they line up properly, and that'll help you keep on course to the target. Every now and then, glance down to the left to your vertical speed indicator, make sure it's close to 0, and you're not juking up and down too much. And you'll notice the right side of the HUD, it gives us our range to the target. Right now it's 14 kilometers and closing. Typically, the release cue will come onto the HUD at approximately 8 kilometers or so, 8 or 9 kilometers. So we're flying nice and steady here, keeping an eye out for that release cue. There's a release cue, press and hold, and you can hear it come off. Alright, so here it is guiding towards the target.
Shift. Infield 1-1-1. Unit destroyed. Re-attack is authorized.
Okay, so that was a good hit. So when he says shift, that means he's lasing the next target. I believe you can also make him, force him to shift via the communications menu. But now we just got to repeat that process, except you'll have to, now that we're out of GBU 16, we'll have to go ahead and select the GBU 12. And then a good method for re-attack that I found is to keep an eye on your waypoint distance indicator. And we know that we release our bomb typically from the last pass at about 8 or 9 kilometers. So we'll wait until we get out to about 15 kilometers away before we turn around. And that should give us enough space to turn around and line up and all that. So we'll speed up time a tad here. And we'll turn around and we'll use our this arrow here to figure out where we're going, because it may be my lack of knowledge, but up in the HUD we don't have any we don't have much symbology to give us distance. This right here, this indicator right here, might give us direction pretty well, but I find that this HSI, or whatever you want to call it down here, is more reliable. And notice I try not to pull too many G's when I'm carrying stores. Just a bad idea in general to pull a whole lot of G's with bombs on board. And the G limiter should by default be set to air to ground. Air to ground. Okay, so should be heading in the direction of the target, close to it. Yeah, okay, so this HUD symbology here is working for the direction. Let's show you real quick where that G limiter is. Yeah, there's the G limiter switch, and as you can see right now, I believe it's down, and then which is air to ground, up is air to air. So we'll go ahead and once again we'll AG designate prior to those targets. We'll go right about there. Level back off again. It's a shame we don't have a flight path marker in this mode. Oh, we're gonna have to
Infield 1-1. IP inbound.
Tell this guy to turn on his laser.
Infield 1. Infield 1-1. Laser on. Infield 1-1. Laser on. Laser on.
Okay.
Blazing.
Let's hope that we did that in time. Looks like we did, because it looks like it's tracking towards the target just fine. As long as this laser comes on while this thing is within parameters, you should be fine. Alright, that should be enough to get you going. Thanks for watching.